All right, welcome back, everybody. That was a great first start, and I know this next one is going to be just as great. So with us next, we've got George Zimmermann, who is the chairman of Longwoods International. My guess is that most of you on here know George. He has worked with our office over the last several years. He was the travel director in Michigan, who created the Pure Michigan campaign. He's been working with our office since we launched the Almost Heaven brand to help us follow that same path, to really figure out how to make Almost Heaven the brand for the entire state. So we're thrilled to have him with us today. Today, he's not only going to talk to you about West Virginia, but he's going to talk to you about the research that Longwoods has been doing. So as soon as the pandemic started, without charging us anything or any of the other states or DMOs anything, Longwoods started doing weekly surveys to ask people about travel. So they've got, I don't even know how many rounds, and George will tell you here shortly, of research that they have done that can give us these great looks at the trends, what's really happening with tourism. So again, I want to thank Longwoods. I've thanked them many times, but I can't thank them enough. They've been doing this free of charge. They've committed to continue doing it as long as it's helpful to the industry. So George is with us today. He's going to walk through that data and give you a real insight into what travelers in America are thinking today. So George, thanks so much for joining.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, everybody. I'd have to agree with Roger. It's a shame we're not doing this in person. I've had the pleasure of being at the conference the last couple of years and always enjoy being with you, but it is what it is. And so let's move on to the data. Let me just share my screen here and we'll get the data up. Actually, I need for the host to enable screen sharing for me, if you could. One second, folks. All right. Let me know. I'm hoping you're seeing that.
It looks good.
Not, it looks good? Good. Excellent. Okay, great. So as Chelsea mentioned, we have been doing this data since the pandemic started. Oh, hold on. There we go. We started doing surveys about COVID and consumer attitudes about COVID back in March, and we started weekly. Hold on one second. I don't want to do that. Pilot error. Here we go. Here we go. One more time. Yes, we started in March weekly, and we've been doing it every other week since then. And this is a national random survey of, it's representative basically of the US population. And what we're tracking, and if you've seen this data, we're looking at basically the attitudes and actions that American travelers are taking during the pandemic. Chelsea mentioned we've done about a number of these. Actually, we're up to wave 24 will be released tomorrow. And I would just say too, these are available for free. You can go to our website, which is longwoods.intl.com, and sign up for them and get this data every 2 weeks. So let's take a look at what we know so far. First, 2/3 of travelers in the US have changed their travel plans because of coronavirus, 2/3. And you look on the right side of the screen there, you see, what kind of change? Well, some have reduced their plans, some have canceled trips. Two other trends we've seen are a shift from fly to drive, which is obviously good for a state like West Virginia. And another one that's probably also good for West Virginia, the shift from international travel to domestic. So these are the kind of changes we're seeing consumers take during this crisis. And most of this data is from the last wave, a couple of little previous waves, and I'll talk more about that when we get to them. But here we go. So again, as I mentioned, about 2/3 have changed their plans, and you can see it peaked up around almost 85% back in early April. And then we had another peak in the summer when cases rose. Now we're down to about 2/3, still a sizable number though that have changed their plans. And I fear that this is going to go back up again based on the recent surge that's happening. So we'll just have to see, but you can see that basically this has followed the kind of the waves of the pandemic travelers' attitudes. All right. And so I mentioned, some canceled trips, some reduced travel plans. Well, this has been really a mixed bag. As you can see, the dark line is the cancel the trip completely. And the light color line is reduced plans. And it's kind of gone back and forth, kind of depending on where we were in the pandemic, which of those was kind of, more common. But in both cases, lots of both of these activities, trips being canceled, trips being reduced, that's what we're seeing. And also the other trends I mentioned, the change from fly to drive, the change from international to domestic. Again, some peaks and valleys, but these have been fairly consistent. There are a percentage of travelers are taking these actions, making these changes. So let's look ahead for travel for the next 6 months. And here's what we see is that by far, the pandemic is what's changing travel decisions. It is by far the big concern, more than the economy or transportation costs or anything else. And so we'll dig into this a little bit. So those who said that coronavirus would greatly impact their travel decisions the next 6 months, again, you're seeing the peak at the beginning in March, kind of tailing off, another peak in the summer around July. And then again, we're cautious because we fear we may see this bump back up again as the number of cases and hospitalizations around the country goes up. And again, comparing that to the economy as a factor, obviously much lower percentages where the economy, even given the large number of people unemployed and displaced and job shifts and everything else, nothing like the impact of the pandemic. Now here's a survey we did kind of leading into fall a couple months ago, probably 6, 8 weeks ago, to get an idea of what kind of travel people were interested in. And what this shows is that, number one, being with family and friends in particular is kind of more important than ever. It's always a big category, but I think that there's this, the data kind of shows there's this want, this need to be with our friends and family at this time of national health crisis. And so that is by far number one. But look at the other things that rated highly as the kind of trips people might take for fall were a road trip. Again, you can do that in your own vehicle, safety. And then outdoor activities like going to parks, national park, state park, monument, view fall foliage from your car or on a hike or whatever it is, hike or bike. So all of the most popular ones are the kind of outdoor focused and also friend and family focused and road trip focused. And again, all great trends for West Virginia as a destination, given your product. You see the indoor things, going to museums, or even outdoor things like going to a sporting event, a football game or something like that, not near as attractive at this point, given the pandemic. All right, and then we asked about upcoming holiday travel. And flat out, about half the country said, we are not going anywhere this holiday season. Not any of the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, et cetera. And then another 40%, yeah, we're gonna travel by car, and then even lesser by air. But you see there this kind of residual of, there's a big group of Americans right now, and these are American travelers who traditionally do travel as part of their lifestyle, who are staying home. And perceptions of travel. And so here we also asked about, how supportive are people of welcoming visitors to their community, traveling outside their community, and even going to local restaurants and shops in their own community. And we'll dig into these a little bit too. So traveling outside my community. Again, the low, when we started asking about this, was around May. It's come up from there, but again, we're still at about that 50% level. So about 50% say, yeah, I feel comfortable traveling outside my community. I feel like that'd be a safe thing to do. But that means about half say they don't believe that. And that's what's kind of holding back the travel industry, is that group of people who are just, the virus is, they're convinced the virus has made it not safe to do the things they used to do. And as far as opening up their local community to visitors, even less. We're talking about more like around 40%. And again, there's been a little variation over time, obviously, as you see on the chart. But again, there's that nagging, I'm not even sure it's safe for people to come here and visit us. And finally, the last in this category, feel safe going to local restaurants and shopping in local stores. And again, about half. And obviously, this is why so many retailers, restaurants, are having a tough time, especially as we transition to colder weather in much of the country, including West Virginia, where the outdoor dining options are going away, and the outdoor markets and those kind of things. So first trip travelers will take the next 6 weeks. And again, you know, the biggest group in this was no trip. I'm not going anywhere, unfortunately, right now, again, because of this kind of pent up fear. But look at the ones that were the most popular trips. Travel by car to visit family and friends. Travel by car to visit family and friends a little further away, but still by car. Stay home, staycation. And even the first time air shows up here down to only 9%, it's to see family and friends. So vacation travel for a lot of these folks is just not a priority right now. The travel they're planning to do is based on that emotional need to visit with family and friends, if they're going to travel at all. And they're going to do it by car first if they can, and air secondarily. And despite, you know, Roger mentioned the safety of, you know, air travel, and I think that message is starting to get out, but you can see the hesitancy on traveling by air throughout this data. And so what's holding people back? You know, I'm hesitant to travel because, that was the question we asked. Consumers, travelers are unclear about what's going on at the places where they want to go. Are they allowed to go there? I live in Wisconsin, and right now Chicago says you can't go to Chicago from Wisconsin unless you quarantine for 14 days when you get there. So there's all kinds of this whole mishmash around the country of rules about, you know, what you can do and what you can't do, and that's causing confusion, obviously, and they're not standard. And not only that, they change over time. That Chicago ban on Wisconsin visitation was on for a while, then it was taken off when our numbers got better in Wisconsin, and now it's back on. So there's that. But look at the third, you know, number 3, number 4. Also, I'm unclear about the health and safety protocols at the destinations where I want to go. And then you've got 40% just saying, I don't feel safe traveling outside my community. And I'm not sure if visitors are welcome. So all of these fears and concerns are obviously impacting what people are doing as far as how much they're traveling. And that's why the numbers are what they are. And as far as getting advice about, you know, we talked about consumer confusion. Well, where are they getting information and who do they trust for information? Obviously, the CDC, historically, kind of known as the, you know, the bedrock of, you know, good health data, ranks the highest. And then you see information from state governments and local governments and other federal officials. But again, I think this all kind of points to there's all of this information coming out where you've got states, in some states, the cities and the states don't agree on what the health protocols should be, or they don't agree with the federal protocols or the CDC. So, and then there's the White House task force, you know, all of these players with inconsistent and different messages to consumers. And that's causing confusion and reluctance and concern and hesitancy in travel. And finally, this one on this series is fascinating to me. You know, all this political debate about masks or not masks, are they safe? Should they be required? The truth is consumers, by a huge margin, favor face masks, even mandatory. And in fact, you see there, some say they will only visit destinations that require face masks. It'll take that for them to feel safe going there. And then another 26% more likely to visit ones that do. On the flip side, if you look at the last two on this chart, the percentage of travelers who would not go somewhere because masks are required is very small. So I think that, you know, my takeaway from that is for the industry is, I know some people are concerned about, well, we don't want to offend anybody, so we'll just say nothing about it, about, you know, what our protocols are, and that way we offend no one. But the truth is, the big majority of travelers you're trying to attract, they want safety protocols. And in some cases, they're only going to go to your place if you require masks for example, indoor. I'm not talking about rafting, obviously, but it gives you an idea kind of where the data is on those various opinions. And so, and then more specifically to lodging, again, what would influence where you stay? And the important thing to consumers, and number one is clear hygiene and cleaning program at a lodging property. And number two, mask wearing requirements, social distancing. So again, those safety requirements, features, protocols are inspiring travel, not retarding it. So, in summary, we've got about 2/3 of American travelers who are saying COVID still will affect their plans in the next 6 months. Half have canceled upcoming trips, about 40% have modified upcoming trips. still a dramatic impact. And again, as Roger mentioned, varies widely across business travel versus meeting and convention travel versus leisure trips versus visiting friends and family, as we've seen. Half of Americans are not planning any holiday travel this year. 40% are talking about car trips, 20% are going to fly. Half of Americans feel safe traveling outside their home communities. Only half, 40%, want visitors in their communities. And about half are comfortable going to local stores and restaurants. Again, the impact, and again, with winter coming in a northern state like West Virginia, these are serious concerns. 60% of Americans favor destinations which require face masks, while only 10% are turned off by those requirements. And consumers will travel, for a couple of specific categories that, these are the ones that are really motivating travel right now. Be with family and friends, individual outdoor recreation, things I can do outdoors by myself with my family unit safely. Those are the big winners. And again, those are all positives for West Virginia. So our recommendation, kind of based on the data so far, and again, we're doing this every 2 weeks, new data tomorrow. Sign up at longwoods.intl.com, longwoods-intl.com. Fear of the virus is still a major barrier for travel for a big chunk of American travelers. It's just a fact. And we recommend, to reassure consumers, we would say highlight whatever you're doing as far as safety and procedures and protocols, in your communities and at your property specifically, and do it in every channel. Advertising, PR, social media, website. I mean, if I owned a tourism related business, on the front page of my website, it would be highlighted prominently that, by the way, in our store, we're practicing social distancing, we require face masks because we want our customers to be, enjoy our store, but be safe, or whatever the specifics are. And it's going to vary indoor versus outdoor, but you get the point. And it does include everything from mask policy, social distancing requirements, touchless purchasing, online sales, where possible, delivery, where that's possible, curbside pickup, where that's possible. How many restaurants have gotten into the curbside pickup and been rewarded for it? That being something they never even considered offering before. And again, where possible, highlight those individual outdoor rec opportunities available at your destination, as well as every other kind of safe recreation, dining, and shopping experiences that kind of fit with the data that we talked about. And one last point. Never underestimate the power of emotional appeal in your messaging. And this is a lesson I learned so well from my Pure Michigan days. And that is, that emotional connection with people is what motivates everything, including travel. But so using images and messaging that talks about, your place, your destination, no matter what kind of attraction or restaurant or facility is, indoor, outdoor, whatever, is a place where family and friends can connect safely, can get those sharing experiences with each other that they so long for. And so I would do everything possible to make that emotional appeal to consumers with how your destination, your place of business, your tourism business is a safe place for that family and friend interaction that customers are craving right now, as we are all spending way too much time at home just with our individual family units. So there's my email address. If you have questions, please feel free to send me an email. I definitely will make this presentation deck available to Chelsea and team, so they'll have it available to distribute at a later date. And I thank you for your time this morning, and I hope you have a great conference, and I hope to be with you in person next year.
Thank you so much, George. We always appreciate your insight. I think it's really interesting. The numbers are obviously moving in the right direction, but we're starting to see some shifts. I remember early on in the pandemic, we were all asking the question, like, should we be using masks in our advertising? And at first we were like, no. Now it's really clear that people want to see those things. So I guess my question to you is, do you think we can over communicate about COVID? Like, is there a level that we should be trying to get, or do you think the more communication, the better?
Well, I don't think you can over communicate it, but again, I would put it in the context of that emotional appeal, not just the facts of the policy, but how what you're doing, whether you're as a state policy or as an individual community, or even, and specifically at the business level, how your tourism business satisfies the longing that people have to be together with friends and family and have recreation in a safe way. And so I think that, but it's both. It's because I think if you don't answer the question, like, I wonder what it's going to be like as far as my safety if I go there, then I'm afraid for a big chunk of the audience, they won't go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. And George is helping us, just so you guys all know, he is helping us put together a new strategic plan for the West Virginia Tourism Office. So it's not just for our office, it's actually for the whole industry. And that's what this plan is going to do, is tell us how to take that brand value of longing. How do we make people long to be here in this new post-COVID world? So George, thanks so much for joining today. We did do a poll at the beginning, and it sounds like although a lot of people are receiving your research, more people want to start seeing it. So we will, those of you on our industry email list, we will start sending that out in our bi-weekly updates. So that'll start coming to all of you guys. But George, thanks again for joining. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I hope to be with you in person next year.
Got it. We'll be there.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Speaking of next year, I have a special guest who I am going to have join me here shortly. So those of you that got your boxes with all your snacks and treats and everything for today probably realized there was a little treat in there from Huntington. So I'm going to bring on my good friend Tyson Compton, who is the head of their CVB, for a special announcement about next year's conference. Tyson?
Good morning. Thank you, Chelsea. The meeting is off to a great start, I think. And George, we hope that we will see you next year too, because Country Roads are going to lead the Governor's Conference to Huntington, West Virginia. And my team and the community are so very excited about this prospect, and we'll be ready to welcome you. And oh my goodness, I sure miss seeing all my tourism friends. So it's going to be a great time to be able to meet in person and share our stories. It's also Huntington's 150th anniversary. So there's going to be a little bit of a party aspect, I think, waiting for you. And of course, in Huntington is home to Heritage Farm, the only West Virginia Smithsonian affiliate, Camden Park, which is West Virginia's only amusement park, the iconic Blenko glass. And for those of you who haven't been in Huntington for a while, you're going to find a very vibrant downtown with lots of local dining options. And it's just going to be a great time. So we look forward to welcoming you in 2021.
All right, we are so excited. This has been kind of a weird week around here. I keep telling the team, I've almost been sad because this just isn't the same. Part of what we all love about Governor's Conference is seeing each other and getting to know new folks. This year we have over 50 new people who've never gotten to experience this. So I promise all those new people that you are in for a great time with Tyson and his team next year. So Tyson, thanks so much for joining. You guys have a little bit of a break. We will start back here at 10:40. Again, in your boxes, you have coffee from Old Village Roasters in Huntington. So please enjoy. We'll see you here soon. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.